He goes to Mejan, famous art school here in Stockholm. He's going to show a video, which he's made into a poem for us. So as long as the video.
Run the video, please. Invasive earthworms of North America. Contents. 1. Earthworms and migration. Influence on nutrient cycles. 3. Effects on organisms. 4. Origins. 5. Solutions. 6. See also. 7. References. 8. External links. There is a global earthworm invasion taking place. Alien species of the slow-moving, innocuous-looking creatures have conquered almost every continent. They are outcompeting native wildlife, adapting to deforested and cultivated soil more effectively than native species, and changing soil structure. Non-native earthworm invasion is a truly global phenomenon in which invasive earthworm species are invading every continent except Antarctica. Since the end of the last great ice age, most of North America has been an earthworm-poor environment. When Europeans settled, they inadvertently introduced European earthworm in ballast soil and in the earth used to transport plants. The loss is especially poignant, as invasive earthworms may be driving out native earthworm species the scientists have not yet had a chance to even describe. Despite their green card status, however, most people view earthworms as beneficial, especially when they are tilling and fertilizing a garden or rendering compost into black gold. When many of the species cannot survive, the diversity of the forest decreases drastically. Without the nutrients available, some species are completely eradicated, which provide important biological niches to the ecosystem. Also, since a decrease in overall ground cover and canopy vegetation is witnessed, food for other organisms becomes scarce. As a result, some organisms are forced to leave the area, and the few plants remaining are often eaten shortly after germination. These invasive earthworms destroy the native species' habitat, and many species suffer besides plants, since their available food and shelter becomes greatly limited. As before stated, animals are often forced to leave or starve due to decreased overall vegetation. In addition, the native species of worm have to compete with the invasive, which they often can't do since their environment changes too drastically. Many of these worms die since they are not well adapted to the new conditions of the forest soil. Generally, with the addition of earthworms to a forest, a clear decrease in diversity is observed, and often other exotic species follow that can survive the nutrient-diminished environment better than the natives. Not all foreign earthworms are destructive. Of the 5,000 species around the globe, only about 16 of the European and Asian varieties do the real damage. One of them is the night crawler, a popular fish bait that can measure up to 15 to 20 centimeters. Another is the Alabama jumper, also known as the snake worm or crazy worm, an aggressive Asian worm that lives at high densities and can literally jump off the ground or out of a bait can, according to fishing lore. A voracious eater, it does the most harm to the soil. Once established, earthworms are impossible to remove from the environment. Concerned about their impact, the US Department of Agriculture recently awarded biologists a 3-year, $397,500 grant to study the ecology of the earthworm invasion in cold-temperate hardwood forests. Researchers agree that the best hope is to contain the worms, which spread only 5 to 10 meters a year on their own. That may mean new regulations governing off-road vehicles, bait disposal by anglers, or equipment hygiene and use in the logging industry. Another possible solution would be the introduction of the New Zealand flatworm, which is invasive to Europe and is in the process of wiping out earthworms native there. Adventive, alien, casual, colonizing, cryptogenic, escaped, endemic, established, exotic, foreign, immigrant, imported, introduced, invasive, native, naturalized, non-indigenous, noxious, nuisance, pest, spreading, temporary, tramp, transferred, transformed, transient, translocated, transplanted, transported, traveling, waif, weedy, natural enemy, hybridized, native. 84D.04, classification of non-native species. Subdivision 1, classes. The Commissioner shall, as provided in this chapter, classify non-native species of aquatic plants and wild animals according to the following categories. 1. Prohibited invasive species which may not be possessed, imported, purchased, sold, propagated, transported, or introduced except as provided in section 84D.05. 2. Regulated invasive species which may not be introduced except as provided in section 84D.07. 3. Unlisted non-native species which are subject to the classification procedure in section 84D.06. And 4. Unregulated non-native species which are not subject to regulation under this chapter. Subdivision 2. Criteria. The Commissioner shall consider the following criteria in classifying a non-native species of aquatic plant or wild animal under this chapter. 1. The likelihood of introduction of the species if it is allowed to enter or exist in the state. 2. The likelihood that the species would naturalize in the state where it is introduced. 3. The magnitude of potential adverse impact of the species on native species and on outdoor recreation, commercial fishing, and other uses of natural resources in the state. 4. The ability to eradicate or control the spread of the species once it is introduced in the state. And 5. Other criteria the Commissioner deems appropriate. History. 1996 C 385 ART 1 S4 2004 C 243 S21 Copyright 2014 by the revision of statutes State of Minnesota, all rights reserved. Tack.